I don't know about you, but I want to have my best year yet as a writer. And I was thinking through what's helped me publish about to be 15 books in 7 years. And I have 5 things I want to share with you. All 5 of them are extremely valuable on their own, and put them all together, and I think you will level up your writing and your career as an author. Doesn't matter if you are brand new to writing, just starting your first book, or if you're a seasoned writer like me, put them together and you are gonna level up like crazy as an author.
I've seen you here before, not a coincidence, I'm sure. I hope you're looking at me now. From the corner of your eye.
One of the biggest things that I hear constantly in the comments from you guys is, I don't have the time to write. You have so much time, Bethany. I just don't have the time for that. Here's the thing, I actually am the queen of not enough time. I am a full-time mom. I also try to do YouTube and Patreon and a million other things. I get it. So my first step, one of the hardest ones honestly, is that you should do a time audit, a really, really honest one, and then rework where you put your time. I can hear some people clicking away. This is not easy, but I swear if you do a time audit and you look at where you're spending your time, I guarantee you can almost always find something where you could replace whatever that thing is with writing time. Not saying it's easy, but saying it is possible. Let me give you a personal example, okay? Because I am, like I said, a full-time mom. I watch Zion from morning until night, so I'm not gonna be writing when he's awake. But he takes a nap every day, and let's say that normally I use that to clean the house or cook or talk to a friend or watch a show, whatever, you name it. I could make that my writing time, and I do, by the way. That's my typical writing time. But then when he goes to bed, technically I could not watch Netflix or not read books, and I could write during that time too, right? I could stay up and miss some sleep. No, maybe I miss 30 minutes of sleep, or maybe if you are a morning person, which I am not, you could get up 30 minutes early in the morning. Yes, you're taking away from something, you're taking away from sleep, and maybe that's not the best thing you want to take away from. That's okay. Maybe you're like, no, I'm prioritizing my sleep, thank you very much. I get that. Then you could be like, well, actually, do I need to watch that Netflix show? Yeah, not really. I'm using personal examples. Whatever is going on in your life, you can look at your time and be like, do I actually need to do this? Could it be moved? Could I cut into some of that time? Do it on a different day. Maybe you were cleaning on Saturdays, but you're like, actually, that's the best time where I could get the biggest chunk of writing time, maybe go somewhere in like a coffee shop. Okay, cool. I'm gonna move my cleaning to Friday nights when I usually watch TV, and maybe Thursday nights when I don't know. I don't actually have a schedule of cleaning. I should do that. Number 2, start setting deadlines. People hate this tip, but I stand by it as probably my favorite. No, I like the other ones too. But I would give this one credit for how fast I've published. And if I had not set deadlines, I probably would have like 2 or 3 books out at this point. Just being real with you. I can literally see you typing like, this is not for me. That's your thing. Listen, I am not gonna like jump through the screen and be like, no, you have to set deadlines now. I can't make you do anything and I don't care to. Do what you want to do. But I can personally say that this is the reason that I'm publishing book number 15 this January instead of like book number 2. It kept me moving. It kept me on track with my schedule. Don't get me wrong, I can actually see some of the setbacks that you guys bring up about deadlines, like they're stressful, or how do I set them and then stick to them if it's not right, or maybe it rushes my writing. Here's the thing though, deadlines are movable. Like, you are still the boss. You're setting them, but what's gonna happen if you don't make them? What's gonna happen if you chase that deadline and then you're like, oh, I have to move it. That's okay. It got you moving. It got you started. You know what I'm saying? And I should specify that I don't just mean a far off publishing date, boom, one deadline, good to go. I mean little mini deadlines that will take you to that publishing date, like the little baby steps, one day at a time. What's my deadline today? What's my deadline for the week? What's my deadline for the month? If you have to move it, that's fine. The only time where it's not something I would recommend is once you do actually set your book on pre-order, because then your readers are counting on it and you don't want to let them down. Even that technically is movable, just being real with you. I've never done it, but I have before. I've actually set a public pre-order date. I've set personal pre-order dates and, planned release dates, and then I've moved them multiple times, okay? Especially now that I have a kid. Let me give you another personal example. I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a book in a month. life happened and I did not write it. And then I didn't write it the next month, and I didn't write the next month, and I wasn't setting deadlines. And then I was like, oh shoot, I actually did put out a public pre-order date. My book is on pre-order for January. So this was back in August, and I did the math and I was like, okay, if I don't get the book done this month and edit it and send it to my beta readers by XYZ date, we're gonna have a problem. It's gonna start to get stressful. I set a deadline finally, and you know what I did? I finally wrote the book. It's a little embarrassing because I could have written that book months earlier, but because I did not have a deadline, even though it was my deadline that I gave myself, it didn't matter. I needed that deadline. I set deadlines for writing the first draft, for editing, for when I'm gonna send to my critique partners, to my beta readers, when I'm gonna do the final edits, when I'm gonna do the proofread, when I should be done with the book and hopefully sending it to ARC readers, and when it should be published. These are some examples of what I set, but the one thing I would not do when you're setting your deadlines is choose someone else's form of deadlines. That is, I think, what upsets people when I talk about deadlines, because they think that I mean you have to do it my way. Do it your way, but set deadlines. Off my soapbox now. My third tip comes from this book, Atomic Habits, and that is to create small, easily stackable habits around your writing. This book talks about how it's easier to keep your habits going if you make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. That's a really, really big summary. I would recommend reading it if you want some awesome tips on setting habits and breaking bad ones in general. But like a really good example of make it obvious, put your writing out where you can see it. Like if it helps you to put it out on the kitchen table, do it. For me, this is really connected to the previous one, which is to make my goals obvious and in my face and easy to remember. So I write them on sticky notes, I write them on a calendar, I write them in my bullet journal, all kinds of places that I'm gonna be seeing them constantly and reminding myself, these are my goals, this is what I wanna do. Making it attractive, as cheesy as it sounds, maybe it helps to post that you're gonna do it on Instagram with a pretty aesthetic before you start. Maybe that means setting up a really awesome Spotify playlist. Maybe it means it's attractive because you'll let yourself have that one little snack that you don't let yourself have otherwise. I don't know. The details really depend on you. When it comes to making it easy, have your document saved in an easy place to find it. For me, it means using Microsoft Word, even though everybody's like, oh, Scrivener's the best. That's too complicated for me. I need it to be easy so that I can just jump right into it and go. Make it satisfying. For me, my favorite way to do that is to use writing trackers. So at the end, I get to write down how much I wrote or how many pages I edited or just a time number that I was here. I did it. I check a box. Things like that make me happy. I've got a little bullet journal. That's my thing. What's your thing that would make it attractive, make it easy, make it memorable, make it satisfying? Those kind of habits will help you sit down, get into it, jump into writing on a regular basis and make it a habit. Number 4, stop comparing yourself to other authors. Penny is my substitute for other authors here in this scenario. But all joking aside, I mean it. Cut it out completely. You have control over this more than you think, and this is something that will hold you back, guaranteed, if you start comparing yourself to others, or in my case, sometimes even to my past self, because things have changed for me now that I'm a mom and I can't do as much that I used to as a writer. And so if you start comparing, can you cut that out? That's really distracting. Okay, cool. Sometimes you can unfollow people if you don't even know them that well and you just need to step back, and that's okay. But a lot of times we can't actually get away from like friends and family asking us questions, or maybe it's like a really well-known famous author and you get exposed to things about them. That's when the strategy of like avoidance just doesn't really work. And so I feel like it's more important to retrain our minds, because you actually, every time you're thinking in a pattern, you're actually like carving a path in your brain, and it makes it easier to walk that path the next time, and you'll get into a habit of the same negative thoughts over and over. But if you instead learn to catch yourself, stop it in the tracks, do not let yourself go down that path and think those thoughts, because it might feel satisfying in the moment, but it's really not. And instead, turn your thoughts to a more positive thing. I'm doing the best that I can for me right now, and I'm going to be successful as an author. Things like that, whatever positive thing you need to speak over yourself. I'm not a manifestation person whatsoever, but I do do believe that you can actually change your thinking and turn your focus away from what someone else is doing to what you are doing, which obviously is going to make you be able to focus on what you're doing better, right? And do a better job where you currently are in the season of life that you currently are, if you're not comparing and looking at what somebody else is doing. I feel like everybody knows that comparing isn't good, but what nobody talks about is that you have the capability to train your brain to think differently. You are actually not set in stone. You are a changeable human being. I'm not an expert on this, honestly. The one thing I know for sure, though, is that feelings follow focus. And whatever you're focusing on, your feelings will follow. It's really that simple. So I don't necessarily know what to tell you to focus on instead. I think it's going to be different for all of us. But one thing I can say for sure is focusing on your journey and what you can do, not want to do, but can do, and then doing those things and focusing on you instead of what someone else can do and what they are doing, then your feelings will be in the right place. I don't know, I hope I said that well enough. Penny is snoring, it's a little distracting. Last but not least, get back to reading. You'll notice I'm not giving you a specific number like XYZ books per year, because it's not about taking on another author's goals, it's about increasing whatever you currently read. This is another one, when I mention it, I always get pushback from authors. It's another one of those, like, I don't have time to read. I'm too busy writing, too busy chasing my own goals. There's just not enough time for that. I get it, trust me, but did you do that time audit we talked about? Because like for me, for example, I'm like, there's no time to read, but well, actually there is if I replace watching movies and TV and I read a book an hour before bed. Well, I never just read for an hour. But that's a whole different problem. We won't talk about that. Here's the thing. I'm not talking about a daily goal or a monthly goal or even a yearly goal. Like, if those things don't work for you, don't worry about that. I'm just talking about finding a way to increase how often you're able to read and how many books you're able to read, because increasing your reading will naturally increase your writing skills. It will help you grow as a writer just by exposing yourself to more writing, to good writing, to even bad writing, honestly. It's going to help you to grow and become better. It's going to expose you to ideas you hadn't considered, to dialogue styles you haven't tried, to different ways of narrating, to different, chapter lengths even, blending types of characters or doing dialogue differently or world building ideas. And I would go so far as to say that it helps you understand story structure and pacing better than any writing craft book ever could, honestly, because you're gonna notice when the pacing was too slow and you're gonna be like, why is that? Or when the pacing is perfect and it keeps you reading and you're like, wow, they did such a good job. And I could go on and on about this, but I'll just give you another personal example. I actually read so far in 2023, as I'm recording this, 65 books already, which is a lot more than I normally read, and I have already seen my writing level up so much more than in previous years, just from that exposure to those different books, from noticing, ooh, that was kind of weird. Why did I not like that one book? Or, ooh, this book was amazing. Or, this book was a really big bestseller. Why is that? And how can I reverse engineer that? And oh, am I talking about this video right here? Yes, I am. If you want to watch that next, I'll put the link below. And if you could, give this video a thumbs up if it helped you before you go. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye.